All right, let's take a look at a couple things that come out of our session here. So there's a couple content articles that are posted on gtopokercoach.com. Certainly welcome to visit the site anytime. There's an article here called Iterative Hand Range Development. The easiest way to navigate the site is actually by clicking on this Getting Started link here at the top. We'll just let the page load up. And then you can see here it's got some skill sets, some strategy, and right here, iterative hand range development. So in case there's some new content and it percolates a little lower on the homepage, you can always find items here off the Getting Started. So what the iterative hand range development concept becomes is we are going ahead and looking at, when we look at position versus position, what combinations of hands become removed, what combinations do we play from certain positions is probably the easiest way of saying it. Now, when we go ahead and look at how this is developed using a solver, I think the easiest way is to just scroll down here and we'll take a look at, perfect. We'll take a look at this actual screenshot. So what this is a view of strategy from PIO Solver. And the screenshot here is actually the big blind response to a small blind open. So thinking about the case of where we have blinds versus blinds, it's really just every card, every combination that's available to you. They're naturally just two cards. You've got some dead money in there already, so on and so forth. And we just look at when the small blind opens for a bet, what do we go ahead and respond with? Now, this is a very isolated example. We're not talking about the bet sizing, certain frequencies, so on and so forth. We're really just looking at this from a GTO/equilibrium perspective. So that being said, when the small blind opens, the big blind does have a folding range, and that's really I think one of the key concepts that we're looking at here. So we basically, kind of where I'm moving the mouse, hopefully it's recording okay, we basically have this area of, offsuit, deuces, threes, fours, fives, sixes, some sevens, some eights, and then when we get in here into the nines that are come with kind of high card, that start to have high card value, we go ahead and retain those in a calling, and then we start to get into some raising ranges as well too. And then we have a little segment over here of even the suited deuces to the middling cards that can't make a straight in any manner or fashion, or do not have high card value, go ahead and get folded out as well too. So that's what we're looking at in terms of the big blind response. So when we go ahead and look at this, now that we've kind of determined from an equilibrium perspective what the blind versus blind play is initially, what does that become for the button, the button, and then all the positions back to under the gun. So that being said, we take a look at what the folding range is here, and then this screenshot is just another application of the solver. We go ahead and look at that, and really what this screen is showing us is the EV of these hand combinations. So you can see that they have either very low or, quite frankly, negative expectation in terms of the value of their exact hands. So that's where we go ahead and the solver goes ahead and basically throws them away because they do have generally negative expectation. So that being said, we remove these hands, and then we come down here and we say, okay, now once we take the small blind, what should the big blind be opening with? So we basically arrive at 30% of hands on the button, and that's the actual screenshot that's showing us here. So we remove just a little bit more of those combinations. We retain, I guess, ace-5 off for some reason. Probably because it can make a wheel and does have some high card value. But needless to say, we also remove some of the suited combinations that, again, can't make straights, have some high card value, but it's better obviously to have the dangler, the second card there, still have some high card value over pocket pairs, so on and so forth. You can read the full article and it'll talk a little bit more about how this is done. Where this is germane to conversation about play in Las Vegas, and specifically some of the 5-10 games and some of the other games, the ability to identify what makes a game good is you'll start to see players, for example, on the button raising against the blinds out in this range, and I'm kind of moving my mouse out here into the 6-5 off, 7-5 off, 7-6 off, 8-7 off. They're putting hand combinations in play from certain spots where they just should not be doing that, where they just have a generally negative expectation. Yes, they do expect to get folds from those spots majority of times, but the hands, when they do get called, just dominate them for the most part. at worst case they're in a break even spot. Yes, they might have position on the button and other things going for them, other forms of meta, other forms of game state, but so on and so forth. They're just going into places with hand combinations that they shouldn't be. And where this process is useful, it helps to create a general strategy map of what you should be doing pre-flop in certain positions. And there are multiple ways to develop some of these charts. I think if you take a look at these exact charts, vice others that are published online, you'll see some very strong similarities. I think these are pretty reasonable to go ahead and start with. And whenever I say that I'm starting from a pre-flop GTO perspective, these are really the hand charts that I'm going ahead and being working with. So that being said, let's just go ahead and take a look as well too. So we have 30% on the button. We'll scroll down here, and again, it goes through the process. So we take a look at what hand combinations we're going to be removing. The cutoff is going to be 25% of hands. We come down here, and again, we take a look at what hand combinations we're going to be removing. We go ahead and down here, the hijack, we have 19% of hands, and this is the first spot where we really start to lose our pocket pairs. And I'll just kind of skip all the way down here to the end, and we'll just go to middle position 15%, mid position 2%, and then early position is going to be 7% of hands. This is the most dramatic position. So we lose all of these really low pocket pairs, and again, we're just focusing on this value range up in here. So that's what we have for the actual range development. So that being said, let's scroll back up here to the top, and let's go ahead and take a look at one of the later positions. Not the button, but the cutoff. So in the case of the cutoff, so if the cutoff opens and you are on the button, obviously, a range of 25% of hands is going to have a natural advantage over 30%. It's just to say there's going to be fewer combinations in that 25% range, vice a 30% range, and of course the value of those hands are going to be greater overall if we just look at the aggregate of the range composition, vice the 30. So you're going to want to go ahead and from the button, you're going to want to call with at least the same/similar range, or you probably want to go ahead and use, for example, a hijack combination of range. So that being said, the 19% of hands, and want to use a composition such like this. And basically what you're doing is you're throwing out more of your offsuit combinations, you're picking up more suited combinations, and then of course combinations that have high card value and then can also make straights, so on and so forth. Still, there are even tricky spots to play. This is a late position concept because you can often get into spots here with your lower ace combinations where you're just range dominated versus a higher ace combination of hands. For example, ace king, queen, jack, vice something like an ace wheel combination. And we'll talk about that because I think there might have been a little bit of game state that some other plays, I think some hands I talked about in the session went ahead and the other players might have been thinking about that. So we'll go ahead and take that kind of into consideration as we're looking at a couple things. So just wanted to point this out. Everyone loves hand charts, I think, and this article goes into kind of how those charts are developed and the basic process of letting the solver go through and determine what we should be doing in specific iterations of hands and specific spots, so on and so forth. But like I said, I think this picture also does a nice job when it comes to specific play. And again, I think the button opening against the blinds, this button player was opening hands out in here that are clearly in red, and like I said, he's in a break-even spot at best, even though he does stand likely to win chips very often. It's just not good overall long-term if he's going to be in the game, as long as it runs. So that being said, I think this is highlights the concept, and again, talking about range development and where we're putting hands and combinations in ranges. So let me go ahead and close this down, and we'll jump into a few specific spots with PIO Solver. So we'll go ahead and do that. Let's see here. I want to go ahead and pick up. Oops, let me go ahead and take a look at this here. There's the one big one that I want to go ahead and take a look at here. Okay, here we're looking at the hand in 5-10. So this is the 5-10 hand where we went ahead and doubled up and we had kings. It's a little awkward because this is a multi-way spot, and the solver, PIO Solver specifically, deals mainly with heads-up spots. So we're picking this up from exactly where my 4-bet comes in. So we have the blinds, we have an early position open, we have a 3-bet from middle position, and then out of the small blinds I go ahead and cold 4 with pocket kings. So This is a situation where we have 155 of dead money. The raise in front of me was to 110, and I'm going to go ahead and make it 330. So root. So I'm going to go ahead and raise here. So when I go to make it 330, basically I'm giving the player the option to either jam or call. We could look at other options within the actual strategy. I'm going to jump over here to how this is actually set up. So we see the root element, we have a raise, then the raise to 1500. We obviously in the tree structure have the opportunity to call, fold, so on and so forth. The way the tool works is we could go ahead and actually create almost any structure of betting, call, fold, check that we wish to go ahead and do, but for this example I decided to keep it fairly simple, and then over here in the configuration of the calls, kept it relatively simple as well too. Since I knew this was going to be a relatively small tree, I went ahead and kept it to or added 2 bet sizes, and then chose a fair number of flops. So we've got 198 flops that it went ahead and ran, just to determine what the equilibrium play may or may not be, or the equilibrium play would be. So that being said, we are here in this spot, so we've raised to 330, and this is the in position player and what they should be doing. So basically, obviously, aces is going to be a slam dunk call. Majority of this is going to be folds, which is going to be in the blue. And I guess I should talk about the colors. The boxes shaded in green are going to be a call. So 20% of this range is going to be a call. So 18.9 combinations. We're going to go ahead and fold out 80% of this range. And I think really what's going on here, I haven't gone through and counted the exact combinations, but I'm willing to bet for the 6 combinations. Okay, so it's not 6 combinations. I'm willing to bet it's basically taking the combinations. Yeah, I think that's probably what it's doing. It's willing to take the combinations of aces and kings that are value, and then you can see kind of these little shims of green. It's basically just taking the rest of the range, and for balance purposes, it's basically redistributing these over through here, so you can kind of see even 5-6, 5-5-4, so on and so forth, gets a call. If we go into and take a look at the range explorer, let me go ahead and bring this up, and we take a look at the range. I like to click on the EV. You can really see that aces is the only value call that's here. Kings, obviously, I think is a marginal one as well too, because obviously you're going to have value against ace king, and certainly blocking ace king in the range that precedes. But everything else, when you're putting this money in, just does not have a strong positive expectation. It's slightly negative and certainly neutral. So aces is the really only value combination that's there. So that being said, if we take a look at the actual line that's there, let's go ahead and select a flop, and I think we'll get a flop that's pretty similar. It was queen. There we go, with no straight, but it did have a flush draw. Kind of interesting here. So my actual line was to go ahead and I just went ahead and jammed in the 1100. And if you take a look over here for the bet sizes, drawing your attention to the right where the mouse is, you're really almost never, basically never, jamming all in there. You're basically only betting the 352 combination, and then you're checking here 30% of the time. So still going back to the actual hand as it was played, I didn't think that there was going to be a case of this person ever folding with a hand that was a draw, or certainly a hand that was a value. And considering the flop that I got, having an overpair, not having an ace come, basically, this pretty much just green lights it for me to go ahead and jam in that spot. So talking about it with 1 or 2 other players, they said they liked the jam in this spot. But then as well too, we see a contradiction to what the solver is actually recommending. So the jam is pretty simple. I'll just go ahead and click on this first. What's interesting here is obviously aces is a slam dunk call. And then as well too, ace queen suited is going to be a majority of a call, and then obviously 7-6 is going to be a call, even though you don't have it that often. I should go ahead and say the boxes are shaded, or the fill of the boxes represents the frequency of the hand. So in this spot, you arrive with aces every time. You have all of your aces here. The rest of these hands should be folded out, and you only show up with a specific. You show up with these combinations a certain amount of time. I think I can turn off the weighting. There we go. I can turn off the weighting here, and you can see it fills it all the way up. But I do like to have the weighting because there is some percentage or some frequency of the time we do go ahead and fold out certain combinations. So it does kind of help represent the fill. So that being said, you know, obviously we called the hand, we ran it twice, and we were good with our kings. Certainly we lose both boards to basically a set where we don't improve to another set as well too. So I'm just gonna have to guess that the opponent in this exact spot called off with ace queen suited here. So, you know, obviously ace queen suited was exactly ace queen suited of spades, so they had a pair plus nut flush draw, and just did not improve to a flush on either boards, either turn, either river, and then also did not find another queen, did not find another ace. If that's the actual case, the money went in bad, so to speak, because ace queen in that exact spot running it twice is going to be a favorite versus kings. So that's probably the only hand, and it's pretty thinly to say, you know, he's calling off with one exact combination, but considering that we did win and that you did call, that's the only combination that really makes sense. I can bring up the Range Explorer again, and we can just take a look at the EV in this spot. Yeah, so if we take a look at aces, obviously that's a slam dunk value. Well, let me move. Okay, I don't think the solver will see if I can move my mouse without triggering the screen to go ahead and redraw where I can move it. I'm not that good. We'll just try it one more time, see if I can get the mouse down there without it redrawing. All right, I made it. So where I'm moving the mouse down here, ace queen of spades, you know, does have a positive expectation for 106 chips, calling the all in there in that spot. So again, it does have positive expectation, whereas the rest of the range has a majority of negative. And the solver tool is actually great, the viewer, because you can see all the various combinations that are through here and what are exactly the value combinations, because the EV goes ahead and basically shows ace queen suited, you know, aces, yeah, and these are just going to be all the ace combinations right up through here. So this would be the hand that he probably did call with is probably the bottom of his value range that he would call for value in this exact spot. If we do take a look and go back and take a look, let's go to the flop and go to the theoretical line. So we'll go ahead and just do the 352. Ace queen suited, if we just kind of focus in on that hand, when we bet, it's going to be a call. There's really nothing that he's going to be raising with here, or very little that's going to be raised with, only 2.7 combos. So basically some frequency of aces, ace king of spades can go ahead and raise here in this spot. And then likewise as well too, your ace wheel combinations that go ahead and have spades in them that can make a flush draw as well too. So quite a few more calls. And again, it's only a certain amount of combos. We have very narrowly defined ranges here. So we go ahead and call here. Then we can go ahead and just we'll take an arbitrary turn. Now, given the size of the pot, we basically only have, the way that the solver is configured, we only have the all in in this exact spot, and ace queen suited is a call. So where I think people still agree with the jam, even though the solver differs, the ace queen suited of spades combination is never folding, and certainly aces isn't either. A set is never folding. So, you know, we are markedly beating, you know, I shouldn't say markedly beating something, but the hands that have value just are never going to be folding. So I don't think we're going to get nit folded or, you know, make a tight fold in this game. So the money's just going in, given this exact board, the run out the ranges, the money's just going to get in. So I don't think the jam is totally horrible. We could go ahead and let's go back here to the flop. We could look at the run out analysis, out of position EV. Yeah, so basically if we look at, this is the run out. So basically this screen here represents all permutations of the turn cards, you know, between what the turn card is and then of course what the suit is. And basically the only good turn cards are going to go ahead and be high card value of king and ace. Again, this is respective to his range. Obviously the ace is a little bit better. And then as well too, the spade cards are better. You can see we kind of work our way up to more of a neutral orange color, vice the red that's here. So that's what we have. So I think that for the most part talks a little bit more, and you can kind of see how the tool is used and how we look at this in specific spots. This is a pretty, I think, a conversational spot. You know, this is, you know, we'll look at other spots in more detail offline outside of a video recording, but this is kind of what we have here. So I think fairly interesting. Let's go ahead and take a look at another spot. Again, this is going to be somewhat similar. Let me make sure. Yeah, this is a spot at the Rio where we go ahead and we lost this flip basically, or getting it in, but just want to talk about kind of what we're doing here and show another aspect of how the tool is used. So the hand that we're looking at here is we have an under the gun bet, and we do end up at heads up right away. So this makes it a little bit cleaner in PIOSolver to go ahead and do the modeling of. This is actually the under the gun range that we took from the iterative hand range development. So this is going to be let's see here. Yeah, our 107 combo. So this is going to be our very, very small, again, where we lose the pocket pairs to start out with. And again, you can kind of see the range composition that's here. So the person goes ahead and bets 35, and we actually, specific to the solver, we went ahead and node locked our strategy. And what does node locking mean? Yeah, combo locked is what the solver goes ahead and calls it. Basically, the solver would go ahead and compute an equilibrium strategy, but we basically jump in here at a point of configuration, and we basically say the only option in the exact line of play that it's going to analyze is we are going to raise in position to a value of 135. Optionally, we could call or fold, but we are only raising to 135 with aces, kings, ace, king suited 100% of the time, and then 50% of the time we're going ahead and just 50% of the time we will do the raise. But then there's going to be a balanced portion of call and fold that we could do with our ace king off. You know, we wouldn't raise in this spot. So that being said, and of course all of the other combinations are subject to call and fold, and we lock this in. So if we go to set strategy and lock node, this is where we're going ahead and defining the strategy in here. So this is the raise of 135. You can see it here, and then down here on the bottom of the screen, we're moving the mouse. We lock the selected combos that are here. So the important part is really that this spot, you know, we had kings in this spot. We raise to 135. What does the response become of the under the gun person? So the response becomes the way the solver computed it out. When we let it run, it didn't reach the stated equilibrium that we went to. I don't think it would converge just because these ranges are relatively small, and we didn't give it a too significant number of boards to go ahead and run through, but it serves the conversational purpose of, you know, putting this in a video and just kind of sharing it out with people about playing a session. If I am, again, we'll just go back here. If I am only 3-betting aces, kings, and ace king suited all the time, and then ace king off to this frequency of 50%, when that occurs, basically they should be folding a majority of this, folding 90%. Obviously aces is a slam dunk raise all in, and then I think what the solver is basically doing is for the percentage of time that we call here, or they go ahead and flat out the under the gun, balancing that with the 10-10. I can't say, I'm sure I could do some research or take a look further why it chose 10-10 as opposed to maybe kings, queens, jacks, so on and so forth. Maybe there's some blocking that comes out of, you know, folding kings there. Considering that we have kings, or it figured it out when it was running it, you know, certainly the queens and jacks. So kind of interesting that it chose 10-10 to some frequency. I mean, it is only 12% that it would go ahead and jam there. Obviously we have some ace wheel combinations. Ace 5 is a better ace wheel combination because obviously you can make a 5 and beat your low pocket pairs that may, you know, kind of mix it up in there. So it's kind of interesting that it did choose this, especially at this frequency. So I'm guessing it has to come up with some bluff. I mean, we can take a look at the EV. Yeah, the EV screen I think generally does do a pretty good job. Obviously aces is a slam dunk, and then given the boards that we gave it, it figured out that there's some, you know, a $1.78 expectation by going ahead and jamming there, but it did figure it out or compute that there is a positive EV. So relative to the combinations that are available and the frequencies that we play, it went ahead and did this, picked this out and chose this to go ahead and do a raise here, which is kind of interesting. So that being said, the player did jam all in with ace jack, and where this goes from a conversational perspective about what makes the game good is, I know that in this spot when I'm 4-betting, you know, again, being a non-regular in the exact game state that I was going into, this is what I'm going to be using as my most common, you know, 3-bet, 4-bet in specific spots. I'm really not getting it in with hands worse than this. I'm probably more likely to, I should say that queens would go ahead and raise and jacks too. There were a couple spots at Caesars where I did, even with 10s, put it in there. But places where the money is going to go in significantly. This is obviously what the range is going to look like. So maybe in all fairness to the hands that I did play or the strategy I was choosing, I could go ahead and put in 135 over to here to these, but I think this is really dictated more so by the fact that the player opened very large in a 2-5 game to 35, opened larger under the gun than equilibrium play states that he should have. And that's why I think I chose, why I just immediately shifted strategy. And again, kings, it's very easy for me to talk about because kings falls exactly within this strategy here and makes a very reasonable example or conversational example to go ahead and lump into PIO Solver. So that being said, maybe one other thing to go ahead and finish up on, just talking about the raise sizes. The raise sizes or the betting sizes. If I go back over here, let me just find the PIO Solver example that I want to pre-flop. Oh, that's not the example that I want. Bear with me here, just one second. Perfect. What we would do is in this tree, we would go ahead and actually put multiple sizings in here. Let me just take a pause of the video and maybe see if I can find the actual solution here real quick. Hold on. Okay, with the magic of video editing, a quick pause. I think I found the video that I was looking for here. So when it comes to the sizings, the concept where I was saying the individual was opening too large, what we're looking at here is a 1-3 game. And again, I think this conversationally serves just the example that I'm going for here. This is the pre-flop portion of the solver. So basically, we just have effective stacks of 100 blinds at a 1-3. We're putting in $10 of dead money into the pot. So, and the big blind size is 3 for accuracy. So this is the case where we just basically have limpers that come in front of us. We have a limp, and then we're basically looking to take a set of ranges here, and then we have a whole series of raise sizes that we could do. So with the dead money here, we could call, we could raise to 20, 25, 30, and then behind those we have the specific call fold actions, and then the tree structure that goes in behind it. And what that gives us the opportunity again to create the pot with the dead money, the bet before us, and then it allows us to see what we're doing with the ranges here. So we can see in a specific spot what is the widest that we can go ahead and call with, and then what sizing should we use. So again, I know I'm kind of jumping across some various stakes and examples here, but you can see with $13 in the pot and then the action coming to us, the most frequent thing that we're going to do is raise to 30. So it goes, limp, dead money. So basically, what is that? Four blinds in there. We're going to pop it to 10% of our stack. So again, considering that we have a 100 blind stack, 40% or 47.50% of the time we're going to be using this sizing. So, and we've gone through iterations where we have 1 limper, 2 limper, and we're basically creating this dead money in the pot, and then we're seeing what sizings we should use. So that's where I can say he should have, again, only my opinion, should have used a smaller sizing, and that probably would not have necessarily shifted the strategy. Now, I'm talking about a hand where I have kings, so it's very easy to get it in, but another combination I probably would have played a little bit differently or not quite gotten it in quite as easily. So that being said, hopefully this is interesting to you. It just goes on to how we develop strategies, how we look at from a GTO/equilibrium play, and then of course the node locking concept, where we go ahead and start to develop some exploitative strategies against that, or other exploitative strategies against our opponent in the player pools, and obviously the various game states that we can model in here. So I'll just go ahead and stop it here. It's getting a little long, but hopefully this is interesting and puts a little more context around the thought processes and how information is used at the tables, and hopefully it'll all go towards being more successful and becoming a better player. If there's any questions, please let me know or leave a comment, and greatly appreciate it. Have a great day.